Today on Smackey's Garage, I'm going to walk you through step by step on how to change both belts on your F-150. Now we're going to focus on the truck that has the 5-liter engine, exactly like this one does. We're going to go ahead, I'm going to show you the easiest steps to take. They can get it done in about 15 minutes. We're also going to inspect my belt, which has about 85,000 miles on it, and see how it's performed. We know the service interval is at 100,000, so let's go ahead, take it apart, get into it. As we get into this, you need a few simple tools. We need a 3/8" ratchet and we need a 15mm socket. If you have some extensions for it, it's only going to make it a little bit easier, but those are the tools that we're going to use. Also in the video, I'm going to use a diagram so that it's easy to follow along because we're going to be working in some tight spaces, and this should be able to help you out. So there are going to be two belts. There's going to be one on the water pump side and there's going to be another one on the air conditioner side. Both of these need to come off. Both of them on this truck have tensioners, and all you really need to do is take something, get some leverage on those tensioners, and then pull the belt off. The routing is important, so we need to make sure we get that correct, but it's really straightforward. So let's go ahead, let's start taking these belts off. So for these belts, they're going to be right in front of the engine. Now the easiest way to access them is going to be from underneath the truck, so we're going to be working under here. So while it might be a little bit hard to see, there's going to be two tensioners on either side. So on the right side, that's going to be the water pump. The alternator side, that has a tensioner which is marked right here. And then on the left side, that's the air conditioner side, and here's the tensioner for that. Now we need to start working on the driver's side right here first to get this belt off, because as you can see, they're looped one on one side, or one in the front, one in the back. Now we're going to start working with this tensioner right here. So we need to put a 15mm socket on it and then turn it so it moves out of the way. And then as we're doing that, pull the belt off. So you'll be able to see as I get on it and as I start turning it, it is going to move. So you need to find the right orientation to have this in to move this around. Okay. So as you can see, that was slid right off and that belt is now out of place. So now I can just remove this one first. Then I'm going to go ahead and do this, and you can see when we do the second one right here, I'm going to stick my 3/8" socket in there and then rotate that as well. And I'm going to be rotating that one, it looks like clockwise or down, so that that one can be slid out as well. So this one's going to be a little bit hard to capture on the camera, but you can see that as I rotate this clockwise right here, that comes out and the belt loosens. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pull this down, and then I'm going to pull that belt off with my finger, making sure nothing gets caught in between it. So over here you can see that I have the belt flat behind the tensioner. You need to push it behind it to get it off, and then to move it out of the way. On this side, there is no way to get that belt past the tensioner, so you're going to actually have to take that tensioner off with a 13mm to be able to get that out. So I'm going to go ahead and take that apart now. All right, so to check out the belts, we're going to look at them and compare them to the belts that came off. So the stock one, the OEM one is right here. You know, the belt isn't, for its age, isn't that bad. There's no cracking, there's no damage on it. So I could see these making it to 100,000 miles. So this is the 3-rib one, or the 4-rib one. And we'll check the other one. The other one looks the same. I mean, you do see some wear here on the lettering, but overall, belt's still in good condition. I mean, this one here does show some wear on the edges. At least on one of the edges, you can see it right here. Some of the strings coming through, not over here. So there is some wear happening, but these would have definitely lasted 100,000 miles. Now with these, I'm going to replace them both with OEM parts since they held up so well. All right, now let's go ahead and take a look at these, and then we'll compare the part numbers on them just to make sure they're the same or similar. BL3Z, this is 3E, 8620. So this should be the same. We're going to check the length on them. And then I'm going to go ahead, yeah, the length should be the same. Or it's about the same. I'm going to check the other one. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the other ones on now. And they're identical to the ones that were taken off. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, put them on. You know, one of the common questions that I get on this channel is, how do I decide if I'm going with an OEM part versus an aftermarket part? And that's a good question. Now the way that I decide is I typically look at how long the OEM part lasted on the truck. So for the belt, for example, it's lasted 85,000, would have made it to 100,000. You know, I'm okay spending the money to get that part that I know is gonna last another 100,000 miles. So that's not a problem at all. Now, if you're looking at something smaller, if you're looking like headlight bulbs, you know, those, you know, if it fails, it's not really an issue. You just gotta replace the bulb again. So for stuff like that, I consider more aftermarket parts than something like a belt that's lasted a long time. Now let's go ahead and get this back together. All right, now I'm gonna be kind of doing this one-handed, so this goes around the crank, it's going around the back pulley. So I need to get that in the right place. And then I'm gonna work my way around everything except for the air conditioner down here. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm gonna use this as the point where I'm putting it on with the tensioner. So for the first step, I walked around that tensioner first, so we're back there, making sure the flat part is on the correct side. And then I'm gonna go ahead and route it around the crank pulley, and then around the top pulley, and get ready to go around the air conditioner. All right, since now everything's routed around, you can see I'm around the tensioner correctly, the top pulley correctly. Down here, check around and make sure that there's no turns and you're within the channel. Then I'm gonna go ahead and tension this up again, and then I'm gonna use my fingers, I'm gonna push this on as I'm twisting it. And as you can see, everything is back into place, everything's tensioned correctly. I'm gonna go ahead and move to putting that tensioner right back into the spot and then doing that belt. Now for the last step, we're gonna go ahead and route this belt around. So it's gonna go around here, around the tensioner, and then around the alternator down here, just as shown in this diagram. All right, we are routed. Now, the easiest way to do this, at least for myself, is I'm gonna do it over I'm gonna put the breaker on here, that 15 millimeter, and I'm gonna reach it over the alternator, the smallest pulley over here. And there we go. Everything should now be in place. Go ahead and do one last check. Make sure everything's routed correctly. You know, if it's not routed correctly, it's probably not going to fit, but make sure everything is within the grooves where it needs to be. All right, now after we're sure everything's back together and we've made sure that the belt is on it, we can go ahead and start the truck. Now, a few things you're going to be looking for when you start the truck. One, you want to make sure the belt is still on there after it starts. And then you want to make sure that it's riding correctly, nothing's wobbling. So we're going to go ahead, start it up, and take a look. All right, so what I like to do now is I like to find a few different spots on the pulleys, and I like to make sure that the belt is riding correctly. So I'm looking for if it's wobbling, I'm looking for if it's out of place at all, and if it isn't, then I know I am good to go and everything's okay. And that is how you change a belt on an F-150. Well, that's it. Nice, easy project to change out the belts on the truck. You know, it really wasn't that bad. Just having to take off that tensioner and just add a little bit more time. But thanks for tuning in to Smackey's Garage. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you next time.